came to speak about a quite interesting topic. It's about mediumistic art, because I'm a gallerist, art dealer, and I'm also art collector. So for me, this topic is a part of my life, and I will describe, when you look at the art world as a tree, this is one branch, very strong, but the principles which I will speak about, they are identifiable in almost every artist.
Medium art, did you say?
Mediumistic art.
Mediumistic art. What does that mean?
Yeah, there is a definition written by scientists about it, but to make it very clear and simple, imagine that because we are, on a Biohacker summit, we can speak about it openly, that our bodies are just tools of our souls, and our soul could be partly separated from our body. Yeah, there are some techniques which speak about possibilities that our spirit gives a chance or borrows the body to another spirit. Another spirit starts using the body of, it could be friend, it's not easy to identify what relationships these two spirits have, to do something. So when we speak about art, some art happens, and it sounds like it's difficult to believe that anything like that exists. So that's why I came here with the presentation, that all the data which we are providing, they are measurable, they are trackable. We have a long record starting from Egypt to, the civilization until now, which is also, let's say, commented by psychologists. And when we look at the theory of Carl Gustav Jung of our self, ego, superego, and all this stuff around, it describes that there is some possibility. But in art, we can see that it really exists. The proofs, it will be in the presentation. For example, imagine you have a man who never took a pencil for drawing. He's living a very regular, ordinary, quite boring life. For example, man who is working as an officer at the railway, and his life is absolutely ordinary. But one day, he wakes up, he sits at the table in his office, and he comes to a state of mind when he is not controlling his body, and the drawing appears on the table and is signed by name which he never heard. Yeah, and then he realizes that the quality of the drawing is outstanding. It's like printed stuff with all the details which you can never achieve, like without training. Yeah. So this is happening, and this is happening all around the world, and it is very well documented, and it's quite often. So you only need to search for it to get this information. Yeah, and big institutions like Museum of Modern Art here in Stockholm, in Sweden, they have Hilma af Klint, who is considered to be one of the most important artists of their modern history. She is representing mediumistic art, and she was really a medium which channeled the information from the fourth dimension, what we can call, or we can speak about it as a spiritual world. Yeah, and when people take ayahuasca or when they have their LSD experiences, they are having some kind of, let's say, visions which could be compared to the experiences of these artists, but they don't use any supplements or chemistry. It comes to them by their naturally.
Yeah, I think there's a lot in what you say. It's a pretty big topic, and yeah. I think one of the reasons why we find it quite hard to believe as humanity in general is maybe perhaps the way it's explained. Whereas if you tell somebody like we have all had an experience where, and you can actually test this yourself to see, are we spiritual beings having a human experience, human beings having a spiritual experience? Who actually cares? But if it can help you to excel in some area of your life, or solve a problem you haven't been able to solve, or create beautiful art or music or something else beyond you, it's worth learning about for sure.
And that will be a part of my speech, that there are really techniques which you can learn, where you can, we can say, dive deep into your subconsciousness, and you can get inspired by yourself. Or maybe you will be able to do a real mediumistic art, but it's not easy. You should learn it for quite a long time. But there are artists who really learn that. And also, I didn't want to say it before the presentation, but why not? When we look at the 20th century art, the modern art, and there was some happening which ended by that 4 artists were considered as the founders of abstract art. That's Frank Kupka, or František Kupka. He comes from my country, Malevich. He came from Russia originally, Mondrian. And these 3 guys, plus Hilma af Klint, who did it few years before them, they are considered founders of abstraction. Yeah. So all these men who are very well known, accepted by the market, their prices of their works cost millions of US dollars or euros. And these people, they openly spoke during their lives that they had these experiences. Some of them wisely experimented with the techniques which I will speak about, which in their cases, we can say that they really experimented with talks through their subconsciousness, where they hacked partly themselves to learn more from their subconsciousness. And Hilma af Klint, she openly spoke about talking to other spirits, about drawing visions which she had in the states which she had. And she was also interesting.
No, go ahead.
She was also interesting because before she died, she established a foundation, and she banned to show any of her drawings for at least 20 years. And everybody was interested in why she's not wanting to show her works. And she said the mankind is not ready for that. And
interesting.
Later, there were 2 curators from England, from London. One of them is Hans Ulrich Olbricht, who is considered the most influential curator in the world, who is a curator of Serpentine Gallery in London. He made an exhibition of Hilma af Klint in Serpentine Gallery, and it caused a spread of this, let's say, mediumistic art and the information that it exists all around the world.
That's a very clever marketing technique as well, keep in mind. But I think, like, for people watching around the world...
You are advising me.
Yeah, people who have, like, no idea what we're talking about. I just want to break it down and make it really simple. So we've all, if you ask anybody, regardless of what you believe in, we've all had that experience where you meet somebody and you're like, I feel like I've known you before, and you've really just met them. Or the experience when you pick up the phone to call someone and they say, I was just thinking about you.
Yes.
Or an experiment you can do is go to a crowded shopping center, the train station, stare at the back of somebody's head, like from across.
Absolutely.
And they will always turn around and look at you. What is that thing? Like, so I think, like, you know, when you say that we're gonna, like, a spirit possesses you and you start painting, like, that sounds a little freaky. But if we talk about these everyday experiences people have, or, you know, the U.S. military, for example, invested millions of dollars into what is that thing that happens when you're about to step on a landmine and you hear the last words and they're like, I got a bad feeling about this. What is that thing? And if we could stop people from stepping on the landmine, it's worth learning about that sort of intuition or sixth sense or something. So
yes.
I think it's not just art, but it's also, you know, inventions. Nikola Tesla saw the AC just in a vision.
You are absolutely right. But the reason why we speak about art here is because it's super well documented. That means we can prove that it exists. And that's the power of image, which is now quite underestimated by the society. And people look at the images, they take it like image. But there could be messages encoded which you don't decode by your consciousness, but your unconsciousness. Read them, understand them, and maybe takes some information from that. So that's why me as a gallerist, when I am selling some art, I'm very sensitive about the feelings which the buyer have from the work, because I say, be careful what you install into your home, into your space, what images you are spending your life with, because these images have a deep impact on you and on your unconsciousness or subconsciousness. So people should be aware that the power of these images is very strong. Yeah.
Very interesting. What's your number one tip? I guess you're going to say in the speech, but I think people watching are probably not going to be there. What is your number one way to get into that psychic, to tap into that?
So you mean if you would like to experiment with that, like a hacker?
Where do you get started?
I think first you should start with balancing yourself. That's it seems to me, one of the main topics of the Biohacker conference here. And when you are, let's say, in balance physically, mentally, then you can start thinking about upgrading to another level. Because if you don't have your mind under the proper control, or if you are not in balance, some shit could happen to you. Yeah, it's the same when you go skiing and you have no ability to ski, and you just walk or climb the biggest hill, and you try to ski down. You have to go step by step to learn, and then you can experience things which you would never expect.
So you think that the mystic psychic state is something we ascend into, or is it something we're just born with, like our children just automatically in touch with that?
That's a very good question. So when we speak about children, our children, they have a very good intuition. So they know what is good for them, and they are guided by their intuition. And their intuition is protecting them from bad. Yeah. So I think the way how children are operating, that's very good, and we should learn from them as an adults. But when you want to go deeper, let's say to make a step out of the protective circle, you have to learn.
I'm excited and interested to hear what your speech is all about, because I think that it's our natural state to be who we are, and when we imply protection, it means that there's something out to get us that's dangerous for us.
Yes, and that's also what I will speak about. But we all know the fairy tales that there are angels and demons, and there are evil parts, like we can say inside of us, but it could be also outside. So before we start operating or start experimenting, we should be aware of these parts, like that it's good and bad, and just to set up our mind to stay on the right side, I would say.
Interesting. Well, thank you very much for being with us here at the Biohacker Summit. Do you have some of your art displayed here as well? Or?
Yes, I will. During the presentation, there will be slides which include a lot of art, but also comments about the artist, because I will show a pure mediumistic art which was displayed publicly maybe once, and then I will show art which is made from the artists, which we all or most of us know, which includes these techniques, and everybody can see them because they are in museums and in public collections.
Wonderful. Thank you. Have a great time here in Helsinki.
Thank you back.
Thanks.